was the major issue. And therefore, it is what I believe the committee that has been established and the probably issues that will be canvassed in the judicial system that we will need to deal with the means testing instrument, but most importantly, the information that applicants give. And the model is very dynamic in the sense that if you apply during your first year and in the course of your study, either, unfortunately, we don't pray that that happens, you lose a parent, one or both, then every year you are supposed to update the system. And that is how then the model is dynamic. It responds to the changes in the dynamics of the applicants, but also it looks at the economic situation of the applicants. Ever since this new model was introduced, government budget to education and to higher institutions of learning was increased so that many of the universities that were actually being declared insolvent, the vice chancellors of those universities have come out and have said they are coming out of the indebtedness that the old funding model had driven them to. And therefore, as we engage in this conversation, truth be told that we are not all equal in terms of economic power. That many of the students who are from the humble backgrounds could be excluded to access higher education because of the inability to pay for the higher education. And that therefore speaks to the priorities of the better plan that the government is using in running the affairs and administration of its affairs. The core principle of inclusivity, that no one will be left behind in this administration, and the students and the children from the humble background are equally brought into the fold to access education from the very basic all the way to higher education. And therefore, that is the whole logic behind the new funding model. The very finer details that I have not been able to talk about here could be issues that will be canvassed in courts and so forth. But I've just provided a broad rationale why the new funding model was introduced. It was based on fact, it was based on empirical evidence, and if anyone is seated here, you could access for the last 5 years what used to happen in the differentiated unit cost funding framework and what has happened in the new funding model starting from the year 2022, and you will be able to have a comparative analysis that is empirically informed, and you will have a conclusion that the new funding model is actually working to get many students into universities and to get many universities out of their indebtedness. Thank you.
Clap for him. It's just important to remind you guys that before HELB, there was something called HELF, established in 1952. In 1992, we reviewed that and came up with HELB. So the arguments that it has always been constant is not true. We graduated from HELF, that is the Higher Education's Loan Fund of 1952 that was changed in 1992 to come up with what we have as HELP, and now we are trying to move to a new platform. We always change to suit our situation. He spoke about equity. I need to repeat that. Equity. Carol, uko na kitu ya kusema kwa Daktari James?
Okay, Mr. James Maina, the question is, I want you to kindly advise on the available opportunity for college students in their affordable housing project.
Thank you. The, the affordable housing program is an ambitious in the government of the Republic of Kenya aiming to develop 200,000 units per year. This program is born out of a long initiative that has happened, and what has been happening in our country and in the world is that the whole world is going urban, and that's our future. Then, if our future is urban, we must make deliberate, intentional initiatives and strategies to ensure that our people will be living in urban areas that have services, and they have houses that are adequate with reasonable sanitation standards. Our country, Kenya, is expected to hit 50% of its population living in urban areas by 2030. Within a few years, majority of our people will be living in urban areas. But what is happening in our urban areas? People definitely come to urban areas. They need places to live, and that is what is happening. Today, in our urban areas, we have over 50% of the population living in either slums or informal settlements with extremely very expensive living conditions. Why do I say so? A person living in a slum or in an informal settlement pays, and this is data that has a record, pays over 100% for the cost of water as compared to a person living in a formal settlement. And of course, the cost of power, sometimes through illegal connections, is also double the actual prices. Meaning, the poor people are paying more for services than the people who are well or who are doing better. And the initiative of affordable housing to realize the development of 200,000 units must have a capital base, and this capital was achieved through the Affordable Housing Fund Act. Remember, there is always a question, why do you want to build the house for me? Why the government has to be involved in building houses and no one leaves? Everyone goes home at the end of the day. But if I say, the only number of houses that has been constructed from the demand of 250 is 50,000 by the private sector. Meaning, over the years, we have been cumulatively not getting 200,000. And as today, we have approximately 1.8 houses that requires to offset the cumulative shortages. The Act, the Affordable Housing Act, provides in its section 2, the purpose of the affordable housing is to develop houses as well as institutional housing. and what is institutional housing. The Act again further defines what institutional houses is.